Today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in March Madness. That's right, today I'm not talking about a board game, I'm talking about the NCAA men's basketball pool that many people, I know in America, I don't know about the rest of the world, fill out a bracket every year as you try to guess who's going to win a bunch of different matchups and who's going to win the overall men's basketball tournament each year. I filled out a bracket a couple days ago, so this has been on my mind, and I really, really love the game design of the concept of a bracket. The reason I thought of this, I was watching a video, a Late Late Show with James Corden. I was watching his video where he fills out a bracket, and he walks into a room with all the different teams in a big pile. He doesn't really know anything about these teams. And I realized that without the bracket format, it would be really hard to figure out who's going to win the tournament. And sure, you go by the rankings. There are rankings going into the tournament. You could just say, okay, the number one team, they're going to win. But what the bracket does, with all this information, when you have 64 options that are thrown at you, is that a bracket breaks down what is an overwhelming number of options to matchups, to head-to-head matchups that help you figure out which option is better than the other. We see this all the time in board games. I brought out a few examples. So in like Isle of Skye, every round you have a few different tiles, and you choose pricing for two of those tiles, and you cancel out one of those tiles, so no one has access to one of the tiles. But the key is that you only have 3 tiles to choose from. The game doesn't give you 64 tiles to choose from, and every round you have to choose a few of them, or one of them, or you choose all 12 that you want to play all at once. It breaks it down into little pieces of information. Deck building games like Clank, one of my favorites, do this too. So over the course of a game, in a deck building game, your deck might be 12, 20, even 30 cards, but the game doesn't give you all those cards every round to use as you wish. Instead, it breaks it down into smaller hands of cards, so you have smaller, more manageable choices to make. And the other one, this might be the best example, I think, for Tzolk'in. There are tons of different action spaces in Tzolk'in where you can place workers on the board. It's got to be at least probably 40, maybe 50 action spaces. And if the game just said, okay, you can choose any of these spaces whenever you want, that amount of information, even though it's freedom for the players to choose what they want, that amount of information is just too much to make an informed decision. So Tzolk'in balances this by saying, no, you can only choose the lowest space on each of these tracks that hasn't been selected by another player. So if another player is already on one track, you could go one level higher than them. And in fact, that's the only eligible space for you to go one level higher than them. But you can't just choose any space on the track. So I really, really like this element of the March Madness bracket, how you're taking a ton of information and you're breaking it down into manageable, bite-sized choices. This team versus this team. You choose one, okay, then you do the next team, and so on. And I was trying to think of any board games that really use that exact bracket mechanism. I'm sure you'll be able to think of one that I am just not thinking of right now. The only one that comes to mind is that there is a Cool Mini or Not game. I can't remember the name of it, but I think they bought it from another company in Europe that is it's kind of a literal bracket where you are training warriors to fight one another in a tournament. And part of the game is spent training them and getting them ready, and then you enter them in the tournament, which is in a bracketed form. I think it's a 16, either an 8 or a 16 team or character bracket. And even that sounds like a lot of fun to me. It sounds like a lot of fun to train these characters and then put them in head-to-head matchups against one another and see which one advances and which doesn't. I really, really like that idea. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about whether you like the bracket system, if you have any comparisons to make from that bracket system to the world of tabletop games or video games. I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Thanks.